Hi everyone, in Algebra 2B, here are your questions for 97A. In the comments of this video, please list all of your questions that you have on lesson 97 part B. The only problems we're going to be going over today are numbers 9, 11, 12, and 13. So the first thing that we're going to do on number 9 is you recognize that they all are x squared and y squared. So we can actually do elimination because we have positive y squared and negative y squared there. So if I add these two equations together, I'm going to get 3x squared equals 9. Then when I divide both sides by 3, I'm going to get x squared is equal to 3. Now don't forget that when you take the square root of both sides, you're not just going to get x is equal to square root of 3, you're going to get x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 3. So we get both the positive root 3 and the negative root 3. So that's just something to remember whenever you take the square root of something. I'm going to start with plugging in x is equal to positive root 3, and then the second time I'm going to do x is equal to negative root 3, since I have two x values. I'm going to plug it into the top equation, so that would be square root of 3 squared plus y squared equals 11. So square root of 3 squared is just 3. So when I bring it to the other side, you're going to subtract 3. And that would give us y squared is equal to 8. Now again, when you take the square root of both sides, you get plus or minus that value, which means y is going to be equal to plus or minus the square root of 8, which you should know simplifies to 2 root 2. So my answer, my first answer is going to be square root of 3, which is my x, and then my y is going to be 2 root 2, plus or minus 2 root 2. So that's my first answer. Now my second answer, I'm going to plug in negative root 3 into the same equation. So that would be negative square root of 3 squared plus y squared equals 11. Now just like the last one, when you square the square root of 3, negative square root of 3, it's still going to be 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from the other side. Again, you're going to get y squared is equal to 8. So then when you take the square root, you're going to get the exact same value. So that means my second answer, my second ordered pair would be negative square root of 3 and then plus or minus 2 square root 2. And that would be my second answer. And that concludes number 9. Now moving on to number 11. This one says if the function g of x is equal to x squared minus 2x plus 2, the domain is reals, meaning the x values we plug in are going to be reals. Find g of 5. That means we're going to take 5 and we're going to plug it into the g function. We're going to take 5 and plug it into the g function. So I'm going to go over to my g function and go g of 5. If I put it right under, it kind of makes it obvious that we're going to replace the x with 5. So that would become 5 squared minus 2 times 5 plus 2. And that we evaluate, 5 squared is 25, 2 times 5 is 10, and then plus 2. Well, 25 minus 10 would be 15, but 15 plus 2 would be 17. So that means my g of 5 is going to be equal to 17. So I plugged my 5 into the g function, and that's how you evaluate it. Now moving on, we're going to look at number 12. Now the first thing that we have to do for number 12 is that we need to solve this top equation for y. So I'm going to start by moving the x to the other side. So that would be negative 2y is less than negative x plus 2. Now I'm going to divide the whole thing by negative 2, but remember when you change the sign, when you divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality. So that means this would become y is greater than 1/2 x minus 1. Now, there's no equal sign under it, so that I know that it's going to be a dotted line. And when it's greater than, when y is greater than, that's going to be everything above the line. Now for the second line, y is equal to 0 just means that this is going to be our line right here. it will be a horizontal line through 0. So this right here is our y is greater than 0. And greater than will mean that it's everything above that line. And then I need to graph the second line, so -1, and then the graph would be up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2, and this one's a dotted line. So I'm gonna dot that line. Okay, perfect. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna start by shading the region that is above the line. So I'm gonna do above this first line. So the first line, remember, is just this x-axis basically. So if I shade the region that's above that line, it would be basically everything up here. And then for the second one, if I shade the region that's above that line, that would cover all of that region, which means your answer is going to be the space that's covered by both. So both the purple and the blue lines. And that means your answer is going to be this region right here. And that would be your answer. For this next one, I have to split up my inequality. So I'm going to start by separating this into 4 is not greater than x plus 3, and then x plus 3 is less than 7. So for this first one, when the inequality is crossed out, I'm gonna have to flip it and put an equal sign under it because it doesn't have one. So it's gonna become 4 is less than or equal to x plus 3. Then I'm gonna move the 3 to the other side by subtracting it. So that means I have 1 is less than or equal to x. I always want the x to be on the left-hand side. So when I do that, all I do is flip the whole inequality. So this would become x is gonna be greater than or equal to 1. So all I did was basically mirror it. So just mirror it so the x is on the left side. For this one, I'm gonna subtract 3 to the other side. So I have x is less than 4. The domain is integer, so remember that's points, not a dot with an arrow. Now I'm gonna make my inequality, or make my number line. So -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's my number line. Now I'm gonna start with x is greater than or equal to 1. So that means my dot's gonna be filled in on 1. It's strictly less than 4, so I'm gonna leave it open on 4. But now I need to figure out, am I gonna fill in the points outside of these 2 points or between these 2 points? Well, the arrow points in from 4, and it also points in from 1, which means that I'm gonna fill in all the points in between. And that would be your result. And that concludes your questions on lesson 97A. Remember to post all your questions in the comment section of this video for lesson 97 part B, and that will be due by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Have a great day.